Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today we're back with another Doctor Who Unbound review. Today's Unbound review is Full Phantom 5. This story follows an incarnation of the Doctor that isn't exactly like the typical Doctor we know. Essentially, this story follows the route of what if the Doctor had found out a secret, and rather than releasing the news to the public and stopping a young woman from grieving over a father that she knows in her own heart didn't do anything wrong, what if he just tried to eliminate everyone and leave her grieving in agony? Now, essentially, what happens in the plot of this story is the Doctor goes down into a submarine with a man named Flint. Flint takes him down underneath this underwater base, and essentially, they're there in hopes of, well, tries to convince Ruth in the beginning that the whole reason he's going back down to the sub is to find out exactly what happened. But of course, the truth lies beyond that, and of course, he knew the whole time exactly what's happened. He's just trying to eliminate anyone who knows about it, and he was going to pretty much self destruct the whole station and let it go up in flames. Now, it turns 25 years or so before the events of this. What happened is the Doctor arrived on Earth, finding out about a bunch of scientific experiments that were going wrong. So, knowing full well that the army were trying to take advantage of this and were trying to find a quick, renewable source of energy, the Doctor kind of interferes and pretty much says, "You can't do this. If you do this, this is wrong." And the whole station was filled with disembodied bodies, mutated bodies, and all sorts of vile, cruel experiments. Originally, one of the scientists, who happens to be Ruth's father, calls them out on this and says, "Lenny, I know you've been doing all this other experimentation, whilst I didn't know about it, but this is wrong, you can't do this." When the Doctor tries to intervene and tries to save Ruth's father, it turns out that the Colonel decides to use him as a lab rat. The Doctor eliminates her father in hopes of stopping him from suffering from the mutation. Meanwhile, something happens to Lenny, and let's just say, who knows? Lenny and the Colonel go to escape, but it turns out that the Colonel also mutated, and this is why the Doctor returned back to the station in hopes of assassinating the Colonel and leaving all of the project in dust. But when Ruth finds out the truth about her father and finds out exactly that the Doctor didn't come here to save her father, or let alone to even let her father live, she begins to turn against the Doctor very quickly. And the Doctor realizes that with this happening, he tried to avoid this, but it seems now that the only inevitable thing for him to do is to kill Ruth and the Colonel. By wiping them out, this would leave the mystery to be ambiguous, but of course, this comes at a cost, and so Ruth picks up a gun and decides to shoot the Doctor. She then remembers the fact that the Doctor mentioned to her as a young child the fact that he has had many lives and he is essentially supposed to have 13 bodies. He also pointed out to her back in the day that he has already used up most of his bodies. So, with 3 bullets left in her gun, she begins to question how many lives he has left. After coming back from the dead, Ruth shoots the Doctor again, and we are left with this unanswered question of how many times he dies and whether Ruth really does kill the Doctor. So, what did I think of Full Phantom 5? I've always loved the fact that this story is set underwater, mainly because I like games such as Bioshock. Bioshock is very similar to this, hence the idea of being trapped underwater with a secret experiment going on. Uh, Bioshock follows a story about a underwater city in which they all get given this sort of superpower. by an atom uh, and become mutants and mutate. The idea that this happened because the government, essentially in this Unbound story for Phantom 5, uh, don't want the public to know of all their cruelties just kind of makes sense. Let's be honest. If you wanted to come up with a project that you didn't want anyone to know about, where better to go than underwater in a place that many people might not suspect you to have a base? Overall, I like that the Doctor in this story is not the typical heroine. This dark, cruel side reminds me of a cross between the Valiard and the Master. Um, the cruelty of the Valiard and the cunning of the Master. In other words, I like the way that this Doctor pretty much tries to cover up his tracks as we go along. He even kind of shoots his driver who let him down in the submarine. And then he kind of goes off on this separate killing spree. So, this idea that the Doctor in this does use a gun is completely a flip on the side of what we know the Doctor to be in Doctor Who, and that is why I think that this incarnation is strong and a complete rewrite of the character as a whole. It's beautiful, it's intense, and it's dark, and for that reason, I give Full Phantom 5 a solid 9 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next Doctor Who review with some more Unbound stories. Goodbye for now, you gorgeous, beautiful people.